Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, again, and welcome to the Polsky Practical Personal Enrichment Series. Tonight's program is titled Economics 2009, and we have a full house, so it's got to be a hot topic, right? We'll be featuring tonight Peter Newman with special guests Scott Borden and Michael Lee, and I'm Emily Fowler. Before we get started, I think I've already heard this happen a couple of times, but if you would turn off cell phones, pagers, or other noisemakers, that would be great. Thank you. The Polsky Practical Personal Enrichment Series is underwritten by the Norman and Elaine Polsky Family Supporting Foundation within the Greater Kansas City Community Foundation in partnership with Johnson County Community College. We're beginning our 5th year, and tonight's program is the first of 7 for 2009. These programs are not being offered anywhere else, and we hope you'll learn something tonight you didn't know when you walked in the door. I want to take this opportunity to thank Norman and Elaine Polsky, for which this Polsky Theater and the series are named, for their generosity both to the college and to organizations across the country. Thank you to Norman and Elaine. And if any of you are interested in supporting programs here at the college, you can call me personally. I'd be happy to speak with you about that. I'd also like to acknowledge our TV and Carlson Center production crews for helping us with tonight's program. And now we're going to get to the best part, which is the packet that you were handed when you came in tonight. This is for you to take home and share with your family and friends. It's to help you remember what you hear tonight, since Norman tells me that 75% of what we hear is lost within 24 hours. So if you go home and do a little reading, you're going to remember the things that you learned. So on the left-hand side, first of all, in purple, Norman and Elaine Polsky's biographies and a list on the back of their 48 endowments that support organizations in the United States and in Israel. Next, on the yellow sheet, is Norman's investment article dated January 30th, 2009. He wants you to know that the first paragraph is one that he would read to Barack Obama, so you should read that carefully. On the back of the yellow sheet are Norman's Big 5 mutual funds that he currently holds, as well as recent funds that he sold. Norman publishes and distributes this article to over 200 people each quarter. And if you'd like to receive it, please send 4 self-addressed stamped envelopes to his address, and it's at the top of the horizontal side of the sheet. On the blue sheet is Norm's system of weighted scores, which he uses to rank his mutual funds. And on the back of that sheet, How Safe is Our Stock Market? A 50-year analysis of the rate of return on stock investments. We wanted to remind you that in the last 50 years, there have been only 12 years of negative performance, and over time, the stock market always seeks new highs. So let's just keep that thought in our prayers, shall we? And on the green sheet, My Legacy to You, Principles to Achieve Financial Independence. The top half of that page, pointers from Jim Stowers that are included in his book, Yes, You Can Achieve Financial Independence. And on the bottom half of that page, points that Norman has used as investment strategies. Speaking of Jim Stowers, who founded American Century Investments, I'd like to remind you we have his book and another book by Adam Bold for sale in our lobby tonight. Each of the books goes for $10. And for Mr. Stowers' book, that's an excellent deal. Retail, you would pay over $40 plus tax. So $10 is a great deal. Buy 2 and take one home and give it to a friend. On the back of the green sheet, Norman's 10 Commandments, advice for how to live a successful life. Now, also on the left side of that packet are a couple of cards. One is a green survey card. We'd like your feedback about the program tonight or any of the accompanying experiences that you had. So please fill this out and hand it to an usher before you leave. We'd like to get 100% return on this tonight, so please turn this in before you leave. And I will remind you again. Also, a blue card that you can use to ask questions of our speakers. Peter and I talked about this, and we do have a lot of information to cover tonight, but we'd like you to go ahead and fill out the question cards if you have any. I'm sure you probably do. And if he's not able to get to them or to some of them, he and our other panelists are going to remain after the program. You can meet them in the lobby. They'll be happy to talk with you about your situation or a question that they weren't able to cover during the program. So we hope you'll take advantage of that. On the right side of the packet tonight, those of you that have joined us before know that Peter Newman's materials are fabulously detailed, and this year is no exception. There's lots of good information in that first stapled green packet. Behind that is a flyer about Peter's 19th annual financial planning cruise, and this year he heads off to Holland, Germany, and France on the Rhine River. Behind this, information about health savings accounts and other information that will be covered by tonight's speakers. I'm not going to get into that in detail. They'll cover it for you. Peter and his guests hope to inspire you tonight to investigate money-saving strategies with your CPA or other advisors. So maybe this information will help you do that. And now a little information about Peter Newman. For those of you that don't know, Peter has over 30 years' experience in financial planning and tax preparation and has his own firm, Peter Newman CPA Chartered, located in the Windmill Village Office Park at 95th and Metcalf. 2009 marks Peter's 23rd year as host of Kansas City's most listened to financial program, Moneyline, heard every Saturday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. on KMBZ 980 a.m. How many of you have listened to Peter's program? Wonderful. Glad you're here tonight. He's also lectured in locations from Miami to Honolulu, and Peter will introduce his guests a little bit later in the program and give you more information about them. So let me now welcome to the podium Mr. Peter Newman.
Thank you very much, Emily. A lot of things to talk about, obviously. Normally I talk about taxes and those types of matters, but we know that we're facing an entirely different situation, aren't we, than we've ever faced before. I'm going to talk a little bit about what has caused this. I'm going to give you a few information about what really this is all about. And then, of course, if we have time, we'll also talk about the the stimulus tax bill, which we know was agreed upon by the conferee committees on the Senate and the House. And I'll talk with you about some of those things and what my feelings is concerning that particular tax stimulus bill. But I want to first talk a little bit about what and how this whole thing came about. And to do that, we need to go back and look a little bit of history. You know, our country is only 233 years old. And when we think about it and look at the statistics, we have had 3 depressions in our history. Now, I'm going to give you some dates, and listen to those dates as I tell you about them, because they occur just about every 60 to 70 years, right on the button. Let's go back to the first one, 1807. In 1807, we had our first depression. It lasted 7 years. The next depression took place in 1873. That one lasted 23 years. And then we came, of course, to the real dark ages, when we came down to 1928 to 1938, which was obviously the Great Depression. If you looked at those dates, as I said, you're going to see about roughly 60 to 70 years. And guess when the 70th year is again? 09. 12, right now, right? I mean, just as if it were on target, believe it or not. And this happens. You know, we have our booms and we have our busts, and this happens to be the latter. And in between those depressions that we have recessions. Now, since the last depression back in 1939, we've had 6 recessions, of which the worst, by the way, was in 81 and 82, when the national unemployment rate stood at roughly 9.6%. Now, having said that, let's define a little bit of the difference between a recession and a depression. What's the first thing that we want to look at? Length of time. Because normally depressions last A great number of years of recession, only one or two. The next key issue, unemployment. And you know, we shirk our heads and we think about what is going on right now. For example, every place in the country is different, isn't it? Michigan, current unemployment rate, 10.6%. The national rate is right now 7.6%. You take a look at California, right now it's 9.3%. And of course, we here in this part of the country, thank goodness, we rank generally in the median of that group, sometimes a little bit better. But really, when you think about it, there are right now roughly 306 million Americans. The unemployment right now is about 11 million. It's not good, no question about it. But we're not at the end. I mean, you know, yes, we have a financial problem. It is a crisis. I will certainly agree with that. But it's not the end of the world. We will survive. I'm convinced of that. How long this is going to last, we'll talk a little bit about that later on as well. Now let's talk about the other things that normally differentiate a depression and a recession, besides length of time and unemployment. And the next one is inflation or deflation. Anybody here worried about inflation? I don't think you're going to be. Is there enough reason to take place that we think inflation is going to occur? Do Americans have a lot of extra money to spend to keep prices going up? Absolutely not. It's the other way around, isn't it? It's deflation, isn't it? Aren't prices coming down? Look at the homes. Look at everything around you. We are coming down in prices, no question about it. And the last segment of this is how severe are these depressions and recessions. And that we measure by GDP, the gross domestic product. That's the sum value of all of our services and all the goods we as a country produce. Now, when we look at that, clearly we are in a recession. We've had 2 quarters, which is the general definition, when we go into a negative. The third quarter of last year was 0.5%. The fourth quarter was roughly 3%. And this quarter will probably even be worse. But we've been told that the recession has already been around for 13 months. And I can tell you a lot of people are thinking that perhaps we really are already in a depression, or certainly on the verge of a depression. Whether that's the case or not, only time will tell. You know, on my programs over the years, I have economists on. And, you know, like everybody else, everybody has a different opinion, right? Nobody knows. Nobody knows for sure. Chris Keel, for example, who's a very well-known economist here in town, is very pessimistic. He feels fairly decent. The other gentleman is very pessimistic as well. He thinks it's going to be 7 to 10 years. Chris thinks it's going to be 1 year or so. In fact, he was saying he thought it would only be until the end of the year and then we'd be positive. I don't agree with that at all. I think it's going to take us a number of years really to get around this particular phase that we're in right now. But what's caused this? Well, this is the way I view it. Number 1, greed. Number 2, government. And number 3, debt. Now, you may think the order is reversed here, but that's what I see. Debt, greed, and government. You know, we Americans used to be producers and savers. What are we now? We're borrowers and consumers. And this is what's caused the problem. And it's been initiated not just by us as individuals, but by improper government legislation as well. Now let's talk for just a minute about past history again. Let's look back and see what has happened over the last few presidential eras. Let's go back first to the Reagan era, the 1980s, 80 to 88, which is when he was president. At that time, the total deficit of the government over the entire period of time, the deficit, not the surplus, was roughly $13 billion in an 8-year period. Then came Bush number 1, right? Guys, you Bushes have a bad history. What was there? He was only in 4 years. What was the total deficit? $135 billion. And who was the next president? Clinton. And what happened, I'm going to leave him out for just a minute. Clinton, for example, what happened during Clinton's administration? Surpluses, an unbelievable good surplus. Actually, $596 billion of surplus. When he left, hey, we were pretty good in a financial point of view. And then, of course, in comes, well, we know who. And the bottom line is, it all went to pot. But you can't blame a president as such. He's not the person who makes all the final decisions. That's not a part of it. He plays a role. There's no question about that. But certainly not the final. Now, let's look at where we stand today. What's our total deficit? It's $11 trillion dollars. Now, in addition to that, Social Security has lent the federal government $3.3 trillion. That's come out of your money, by the way. I hope it's collectible. But when you look at the unfunded cost of Social Security, we have $11 trillion, and then we've got another $35 trillion of money that we spend of what we call entitlement programs. $35 trillion. That means that the entire debt structure is roughly $51 trillion. $184,000 for every one of you. And believe it or not, today, the amount of debt that was added to our debt as we speak now, the $11 trillion, is roughly $3.5 billion a day. Every single day, we add another 3.5. So certainly those numbers are unbelievably staggering when you look at it. And it keeps getting worse and worse and worse. It's not getting any better. And the bottom line is, what do we do? You know, where are we going to go? What's going to happen? And how long is it really going to take us to get around this significant problem? So let's talk about that a little bit. If you look at how this whole bad picture came about, let's first go back to 1996. At that time, the HUD program required that every lender, including Fannie and Freddie Mac, and by the way, what's happened to Fannie and Freddie? They're bankrupt, aren't they? Right? They've been taken over by the government. That what in fact had to happen was that any loans that were made, at least 46% had to be made to individuals below the median income level. That was a requirement. By the year 2002, that figure had jumped to about 55%. Now, think back with me for just a minute to the year 2000. At that time, we had the irrational exuberance for dot-coms. Do you remember that? Everybody was buying dot-coms. Even if the company had not yet been in business but 3 days and had losses, people were paying $100, $200, $300 a share for what? For nothing. Right? There was no experience, no reason to do it, but we did it anyway. By the time 2002 rolled around, what was happening? We were going into a recession. And what happens when we go into a recession? What's the first thing that Jim Dandy does? What does the Fed do? Cut rates, right? So we cut rates 6 or 7 times, and we brought the Fed fund rate to 1%, the lowest in history at that point. By the way, anybody know what the Fed fund rate is right now? 0. There ain't none, as they say. So no Fed fund rate, and the actual prime rate, the lending rate, was 4%. So what happened? People suddenly realized rates were low. And with everybody out there doing these hybrid loans, everybody was buying property, weren't they? They didn't have any money, but they were buying. Crazy. Prices were skyrocketing. My daughter lives in Las Vegas. One year the prices went up 50%. She couldn't even find a house to buy. She had to go into a lottery to get a lot. That's how bad it was. But what were we doing? We were lending money to people who really couldn't afford to carry the loans. Why? Because of greed. And all kinds of different varieties of loans. You could get any loan you wanted. No interest loans for the first 3 months, nothing to pay. You could have gotten a loan of any kind. And if you had a home and say it was worth $300,000, you could borrow $500,000, right? If you were willing to pay the interest rates. So we were becoming completely irrational about what we were doing and the way we were doing it. And to add on top of it, who was promoting it? The Internal Revenue Code, right? Because on top of it, what was happening? We were giving tax breaks to individuals. You know, for the equity access loan, for example. You need money? You don't want to invest it in your house? Go out and buy another $100,000. Go ahead and take out another $100,000 loan. We gave people, first-time home buyers, credits. The encouragement was there. Do it, do it, do it. Debt, debt, and more debt. And that's exactly what happened. So we over-debted, if you will, ourselves to the extent that people couldn't carry it. And as soon as the value of a home went up in the marketplace, what did individuals do? They needed more money. They went and got more money, right? And so everybody was simply loaning up to, not everybody, but 99, 44, 100s, well, something in that area, was going out and borrowing money. Money that they could not reasonably support. And then all it took, of course, is what happened, is for values to start coming down, crushing prices, and everybody simply reversed what had happened all along. And that was, we found ourselves scrounging for how to get out of this debt. And that's where we are today. We simply are in a position where we have debted ourselves completely off the mat. You know, debt does not create prosperity. What creates prosperity? Saving and investing. Yes, we need to invest, but when we invest, we need to make sure that what we're doing has some sense to it, and we don't take 150% of an asset when it's only worth 100%. That is to go out and simply take more money and do something with it. And so we find ourselves, as we might expect, in real dire straits. Look at the foreclosures that are taking place. And then, of course, we get all this work that's being done by the government to try to get us on track. What was the first thing that we did? The stimulus bill, right? The first stimulus bill that took... What good did it do? Does anybody know what good it did? Zero, zilch, none. Nothing whatsoever. We spent $130 billion. And by the way, some of you are still going to get a stimulus payment if you didn't get it all when you filed your 2007 return, depending upon your situation. You may still get an additional stimulus payment. For example, if an individual was married and at the time last year when the stimulus payments were being made and he had one child, and during the year before the end of the year he had another child, he's going to get another $300 stimulus payment when he files his 2008 return. So we're not through. But the bottom line is it didn't help one iota. I kept talking on the air about what this bill was doing. I was looking for a positive economic sign. You know what happened? 1 month, the retail picture went up. Retail sales were up. 1 month, maybe 2, but as I recall, it was only 1. And that's all she wrote. So now comes the next phase, right? Another stimulus package. I'm not talking about the current one, but the previous one. For how much money? $750 billion. And as normal, what did government do? They have no idea. They have no controls. They just give money to somebody with no, here, take the money. No controls whatsoever. You know, I've often wondered how we as Americans can elect the people we elect to provide such stupid results. I mean, really, it's hard for me to believe. And then to even top that off worse, right now, of course, the only way you can get elected into the office if you owe money to the government, you never paid them, right? That's a requirement, right? I mean, if you owe money, you're going to get a position with the federal government, right? I mean, stupidity plus. How can we turn around, and hopefully Tim doesn't see this particular program, but how can we turn around and elect somebody to run the IRS, the Treasurer of the United States, and he couldn't even pay his own taxes? Isn't that a great example for us, right? I mean, how is that possible? I mean, it's just beyond my understanding that we can do stupid things like that. Now, set a great example, right? forget that for just a minute. The bottom line is that we've created a huge, huge problem by what we've done. Now, the question is, will this particular stimulus bill that just came out solve the problem? I don't think so. Why? Because in my opinion, and certainly not in the Big O's opinion, it's not addressing the issues. You know, we can't solve everybody's problem. America is wonderful. We try to help everybody. We hope everybody makes it, right? And we do have a wonderful country. There's no question about that. The best in the world, bar none. There is none better. You know, we're not the only one that's got economic problems. Europe, huge economic problems, even worse than we have. England, the same way. Russia is about ready to fold altogether. They're completely down the tubes. So at least we're still floating, although I'd say we're a little under the water. But the bottom line to all of this is that we've worked ourselves into a situation that I think is going to take long, long, long time to really get around. And the problem, like I say, with the stimulus bill, in my opinion, it addresses the wrong issues. We need to get money out to where it's going to get jobs, right? That's the first thing. How can we, what benefit does it do, for example, to cut tax rates for the corporations? They can't do anything unless they have revenue coming in. The consumer contributes 70% of all the dollars that circulate into the economic environment. And when consumers have no money and are now saving, by the way, hallelujah, America finally realizes that maybe, we should put $1 away every day or every month or whatever. Because that isn't the typical thought, right? But why should they think any differently? If government can be in debt, why shouldn't we? You know, as I look at most of you are my age or maybe a few years younger. But you know, when we were growing up, my parents saved. They didn't make a lot, but they saved. When we went out and bought our first home, we had to have a down payment of 10% or 15 or 5, some reasonable amount. You know, what have we come to? And it results from one factor, in my opinion, greed. When we have people who are more concerned about themselves than this country, and that's even true of our people in Congress. You know, our people in Congress still, I think, are more concerned about their constituents, so to speak, than they are about America as a whole. I don't think we'll ever again see as good of a life as we were used to seeing. That's my opinion. I hope I'm wrong. I really hope and pray. But when we finally wise up to the real world, and by the way, this debt is not terrible. I do want to tell you this. Even though we're increasing our debt significantly, it's still within the realm of doable because of our GDP, our gross domestic product. So I think it's still doable, but I think we've got a long ways to go. And I'm going to be amazed, and I could be wrong, that this GDP is going to be going up at all. I think you're going to see another 3 or 4 quarters when we have negative growth. And again, I think it's going to take a good 3 to 5 years before we actually see a turnaround in this particular economy. It's just too tough. Having said what I've said, there is no simple answer. I'm not Obama, thank God, because he's got a tough job, you know, and I would hope that he's going to be able to conquer these problems. Certainly he's trying. Have to give him A for effort. I'm not convinced that the philosophy is fully right. So, having said that, let's talk about now some other things besides the economy. Let's talk about taxes for just a minute, if we may. We just had a report that was issued by the Taxpayers Advocate's Office. That is the group that kind of stands between the IRS and taxpayers. And the Taxpayer Advocate issued their annual report. They issue it once a year. And here's what they told Congress, as they have in the last 15. The major problem with our taxation system is what? Too complicated. And they repeat that every year. Now listen to the facts that they've come up with. We as a country, that means individuals, businesses, spend $200 billion a year complying with the tax law. $200 billion. We spend 8 billion hours a year filling out the forms, doing the research, etc. 8 billion hours a year. That's like 3.25 million people working full-time and accomplishing what? Absolutely not one thing. And the Congress does nothing but change it every time, right? This past year, 3 major changes in the tax laws. 3 major changes. What a ridiculous waste. An absolute waste of time and money. There's so much better solution to this problem, but we'll never get it done. And the reason is Congress likes control. They want to be able to say, let's do this, let's do that, let's give this person a deduction, let's give that individual some benefits. And that's discriminatory. I don't care how you cut the mustard, it's discriminatory. We all, every one of us, should be treated the same way, right? Whether we're wealthy or whether we're poor or whatever our income is, we should be treated the same way. Tax rates need to be different, there's no question about that. But we're just simply taking too much of our time and money to comply with that. By the way, that figure that I gave you, 200 billion, that represents 14% of the entire nation's collections. That's what we're wasting every... And wouldn't it be nice for Congress to devote the time to something constructive? It's a waste, an absolute waste of time and effort. Let's talk about the major tax law changes this past year. We had 3 tax bills. The first one was the Emergency Economic Stabilization Act. You know what that act was? What do you know it as? TARP, right? You have heard of TARP, right? That was supposed to be the bill that was going to rescue us. Some interesting things that occurred in TARP. By the way, if you had ever read that bill, you wouldn't have believed the amount of pork that was in that bill. Unbelievable things that we were doing. We gave money away to NASCAR. Very important. We gave money away to the wine growers because they needed the money. We even gave away money to the individuals who were willing to ride bicycles to work. I mean, this was all in this great tax bill TARP. And just like this stimulus bill that we have now and that we see coming, we've got pork in there as well. I mean, I looked at that bill and I said to myself, look at all the things that we're going to... By the way, among other things, this bill will probably have in it another provision that was also in an earlier bill last year. We still want to encourage home ownership, don't we? Sure, we need to encourage home ownership. I mean, we should. We're going to give away $7,500 to any first-time home buyer. And here's the way it works. If an individual who's a first-time home buyer or haven't owned a home for 3 years, we will give them a credit, meaning a dollar-for-dollar reduction of their federal tax equal to 10% of the purchase price of a home. So you go out and buy a home for $75,000. And this is law, by the way, as we speak today. Uncle Sam will give you $7,500 of your money. That's all it takes. Anybody who bought a home between April 9th of 2008 to June 30th of, actually July 1 of this year and meets those parameters, they will get a $7,500 credit subject to certain income limitations. Now, what is it? In effect, it's a loan, a tax or interest-free loan. They're going to give the taxpayer $7,500. After you've lived there 2 years, you must repay it over a 15-year period. You know what the chances are they're going to collect that money? None. Oh, well, yeah, maybe a few bucks, but certainly no part of that $7,500 was ever going to get repaid. And by the way, the other good thing is, let's say, for example, you have somebody that goes out and buys a home and he gets $7,500 as a credit. He doesn't even have to wait to file his 09 return. He goes back and amends his 08 return, and Uncle Sam gives it to you even quicker. That's the benefit of these tax laws. Whoever dreams up this stuff is beyond me. I just, I sit and mull around all the time. Where do they dream? Hey, by the way, if you want to buy a car now, you're probably going to be able to deduct the sales taxes. Yeah, I mean, these are the kind of things our geniuses dream up They must spend an awful lot of time trying to figure out what to do and what not to do. A few other interesting things have happened this past year. First of all, as you may or may not know, and I'm sure most of you do, who are taking out minimum distributions, you know, when you reach 70 and a half, I'm a member in good standing. When you reach 70 and a half, you have to start taking your minimum distributions, don't you, out of your retirement accounts? In this year, and only in this year, 09, you have to take no minimum distributions. It's gone. You are not required to do what's called your MDRs. But let me tell you what you should be doing. If you don't have to take it out and you don't need it, number one, of course, you leave it in. But this would be the best year ever, if you have earned income, to do a Roth. Right? Because you have less income, and if you have earnings, for goodness sakes, do a Roth IRA. The benefit is unbelievable. Number one, you get no tax deduction, but any money you make on that Roth IRA will never be taxed, as long as you have it in there for 5 years. So very important. And for those of you who have more than $100,000 of adjusted gross income, which used to be the limitation for moving from regular IRAs to Roth IRAs, next year in 2010, anybody can take money from a regular IRA, move it to a Roth, and it will be taxed, of course, but you don't pay the tax until 2011 and 2012. So that's a good benefit, and it's something that you definitely want to think about. And for those of you who already are in plans with your employers and cannot do an IRA that's either a Roth, because you can't do one if you have more than $159,000 of adjusted gross income, do a non-deductible IRA. Anybody can do a non-deductible IRA that has earnings and is under 70 and a half, and then flip it over to a Roth in the year 2011, and you've in fact got yourself a nice little savings account. Some nice things that they did do, though, in this bill, I have to admit, and one of them is the ability to move directly from an IRA to a charitable contribution. For anybody 70 and a half, it's been in the bill for a period of time, you can move it directly from your IRA and take it to a charity, up to $100,000 per individual. Husband and wife can do $200,000 as long as you're over 70 and a half. That's a good way to do your charitable contributions, and it creates no taxable income when you do it, and of course no deduction either. But it does lower your adjusted gross income, which saves on taxation of, for example, of Social Security. By the way, another great thing. You know, one of the beauties of the tax law, thanks to Bill Clinton, thanks to Bill Clinton, was that during his second term, what he basically said was, I don't think that the sale of a home should create, on a gain, should create taxable income. And I'm sure all of you know by now that if you sell a home, and we realize right now home prices are not up, but hopefully they'll come back, but if you sell a home at a gain of more than $250,000 and you're single, you're going to get taxed. Now the problem used to be that if I had a husband and wife, and let's say one died, and I only have one remaining spouse that's still living, and they sold the house the year after the spouse died, they only got a $250,000 exclusion because the husband had passed away. That's been changed. Now, if a surviving spouse sells the house at any time after 2 years after the date of death, there will be an exclusion of $500,000 from the sale of a home, on the gain specifically. So that was kind of a nice thing that they finally decided that they throw in, and I think it makes sense. Also, for those of, and I'm sure there's none of you, by the way, who have capital gains this year, right? Anybody here? Don't raise your hands, because I'm not even going to ask you, because I don't want to see one hand raised. But you know, for a practical matter, no one right now is showing capital gains in 2008. We've got a ton of losses. In fact, I've had some people come in, they've got enough losses to last them for another 300 years at the rate of $3,000 a year. But the important thing is this. If you are only in the 15% bracket on a joint return that's taxable income of anything under $63,000, and you do have long-term capital gains, you pay 0 tax on long-term capital gains. So check it out. Make sure that you're prepared when he does it, is in fact doing it right, so he's not creating any tax liability for figures that are under that $63,000 of income. By the way, energy credits. Anybody all enthused about energy and did a lot of energy type work? 2008, other than solar energy, no credits. I had somebody who just sent me their stuff in. He says, oh, I did all this and did all this. And the bottom line is he's not going to get anything at all. What happens in 2009? The energy credit is back in 2009. So if you do things like insulation or a certain type of other items that save energy, you will be eligible for a credit in your 2009 tax return. So that is back. Well, I just got a sign from Emily Fowler that says, Mr. Newman, your 3 hours are up. So, by the way, one last thing before I get my guests up here, and I do want to mention to you that we still have the good ability to deduct auto mileage. Auto mileage, if it's used for business, if it's used for charity, if it's used for medical purpose, is deductible. The rates vary. For example, business last year was $58.50 for 6 months and $50.50 for the first 6 months. If you're itemizing, and by the way, if you're not itemizing, real quick, I want to add one more thing. For those of you who take the standard deduction, and a good number of you probably do take the standard deduction because you don't have debt on your home, hallelujah, and you have no debt on your home, you're not itemizing, the standard deduction on a joint return is $10,900. This year, in 2008, not 2009, as a joint filer, you get an additional standard deduction of $1,000 for real estate taxes. If you're a single filer, in addition to the $5,450 that's the standard deduction, you get another $500 as long as your real estate taxes actually were at least $500. So that was at least something that they finally gave us, which gives us an additional standard deduction. By the way, the standard deduction, together with the exemption, which this year was $3,500, for a practical matter, a couple 65 years of age and older don't even have to file a return for all intents and purposes if their income is roughly under $20,000. That's the exemptions plus the standard deduction. So there are many people who probably are not going to have to file a tax return this year. So that's kind of a quick summary. I wish I had more time because there's a number of other things that are important. How many of you are familiar with the special PTC credit and Kansas homestead credit, where individuals in the lower income categories can actually receive money back from the state, whether they paid in a penny or not? Quick example. And by the way, let's get our guests up here because I wanted to start talking to them here in a minute. In fact, I'm running out of time. But I do want to mention this real quick. For those of you who have seniors living in your home or living away, but who have less in the state of Kansas than $30,000 of income, which includes half of their Social Security, they can get up to $700 from the state of Kansas. In Missouri, it's 65 or older. In Kansas, it's 55 or older. Missouri has even a better credit. It's called the PTC, $1,000 that you can get from the state of Missouri if you happen to be in the lower income categories. And again, in Missouri, that happens to be $30,000 for single and $34,000 for joint filers. I've given you a quick recap. I wanted to talk some more about Ross. I did not get a chance to do so. I wanted to talk about investment philosophies as well. I was going to talk with you about Social Security. We'll leave that for some other time. But I want to sit down now and talk with my two special guests who I have invited to join us to talk about a couple of subjects that I think are important to all of us. One of them is medical insurance, and the other one is legal documents. You know, we all have a lot of legal documents, and what happens? We spend a lot of money for legal documents, don't we? All of us do. Well, there's a way to pay very, very little on legal documents, and in just a minute we'll talk to Mike Lee. But before we do that, let's talk with a good friend of mine who I've known for a long time, has been on my program. If you've listened, it's Scott Borden with OFM Benefits. Scott, good to have you here.
Hello, glad to be here.
Scott, HSA, health savings accounts, the best thing that's ever happened to medical insurance, bar none. Could you give our audience here kind of a quick overview of what it's all about and how it works and what the benefits are?
A health savings account is nothing more than a different way of paying your smaller medical bills. Today, I mean, the crisis we're talking about, what's the number one problem facing businesses today? It's overinflated health insurance costs. What's the number two problem is taxes. So we have people out here today as a country, we spend 60% more on health care than we do on housing. It's an amazing amount of money. Over $2 trillion we spent last year for our healthcare delivery system. And we know approximately 30 to 35% of that was unnecessary because people are incentivized through the current healthcare delivery system by paying a copay and somebody else paying the rest of the bill. No one cares what the total cost is. It encourages people to overspend their healthcare dollars. And that's the problem within our current healthcare system is people are spending money like it's daddy's money. And if you have kids out there, I encourage you, send your kids to the mall, give them $20 each, tell them you want money back. How much are you going to get back? None, right? Next time, give them $20, tell them they get to keep the change. Guess what happens? It's a change of behavior when they own the dollars, and that's what we do. We show people how to raise their deductible on their health insurance plan. You still have insurance in case the big ticket item happens to you. You get a PPO discount for whatever bills you have to pay for. When I pull out my PPO discount, my health insurance card, I'm going to save anywhere from 20, sometimes 70 or 80% of the medical bill. I get a discount because I get the big insurance company's discount, but they're not paying the smaller bills. I pay a lot lower premium than most people pay. By raising the deductible and saving a lot of premium, let's put that premium savings into the actual health savings account. And that's a triple tax advantaged account that you own. It's your money. If you don't spend it, you keep it. It rolls over from year to year. So now I have a vested interest in not spending my health savings account. That's what's going to help change healthcare in our country today, is getting people out there with a vested interest in saving healthcare dollars.
Well, Scott, let me make sure I understand what you've told us. So the bottom line is I have a coverage right now.
Okay.
What this particular policy, this HSA program does is it, number one, causes you to increase the deductible on your policy. And it's $1,000 for individuals and $2,000 approximately for families. So let's say I raise my deductible. When I do that, of course, my premiums are lower. Isn't that right? Well, it's just like an automobile. The higher the deductible, the less you pay for premiums. And that's what happens here. The bottom line is that savings actually gets put into, quote, an IRA. It's like an IRA. It's called a health savings account. You get a tax deduction for putting that money away. It's like an employer, for example. Employers, every time they write a check, they literally die because of the dollars they're spending. And what does the employee get? Nothing unless he uses the coverage. But in this case, what happens is the employee actually gets money. They get to put it into their account, and they can use that money anytime they wish for any number of health reasons. Is that right?
That is correct. You can use your HSA account. Employees, I have employees all the time. Maybe their spouse isn't even covered by the qualified high deductible health plan that we have for the employer, but yet we can use their HSA account to pay for spouses' medical expenses, pay for children's medical expenses. You can use this thing to even pay for things that don't even count toward your insurance. Your dental, your vision. You can go over the counter. You can buy Tylenol, Advil, Claritin, eye drops. All these things you can pay for with pre-tax dollars or tax-deductible dollars. It pays you interest, and you can pull it out tax-free on the backside. So it's triple tax advantage without the fear of use it or lose it. A lot of people today are familiar with flexible spending accounts where you're supposed to guess what your total expenses are going to be for the year, try to spend those dollars, but if you don't spend those dollars by the end of the year, you lose it. That's not the case with a health savings account.
You really need to look at this. If you've never looked at this particular plan, whether it's you as individuals or whether you're an owner of a business or your children, you should talk with them about at least looking and understanding an HSA, health savings account. They're the best thing, I can assure you, that's ever happened to the field of medical insurance. It's a completely new wave. We used to originally have the MSA accounts. We now have the HSA accounts. The first year it took place, the government limited to a limited number of individuals. Now it's available for everybody. And as you've said here, the real benefit is lower costs. You have money to keep. You get a tax deduction for having done it in the first place. And while that money is in the HSA account, it's actually earning money as well.
Yes.
That's never going to get taxed. And you can use this money to pay for any number of medical bills. And in fact, it's so easy, you even have a credit card where you just simply go in there and swipe it, and the charge, in effect, hits your account. It's not perfect. You know, there's not too many things in life that are perfect, except one, my good wife. She's 100% perfect. But there isn't everything that's perfect. And the bottom line is that you do, in fact, get a benefit. Everybody needs to know and understand HSA accounts. And we've been talking about this on KMBZ's Moneyline for a number of years. It's swept the country, and I guarantee as more and more people and companies are aware of the benefits, we're going to see more and more of this.
Yeah, one thing to mention, people today are being laid off, as you were talking about earlier. The COBRA premiums. I had two couples just this week already. They came into our office. They had been referred to me, and their premiums for COBRA continuation was $1,200 a month for one family, $1,400 a month for another family. I got both of those families insured for less than $500 a month for insurance, and now they happen to be healthy enough to qualify for individual policies. That's always an issue. But on group policies, those are guaranteed issue plans, so it works even better on the group scenarios. I love showing businesses how to do it. And the other thing is there is a fairly similar plan design that is available for people that are Medicare eligible. I'm very limited in what I can say on the radio, and tonight I really can't describe it much. There's a fairly similar product that is available at zero premium. So next November 15th through December 31st, you need to find out about the MSAs, the medical savings account available for Medicare eligible people. And we work with people and try to show people how this works and benefits you. Once again, if you don't spend your health care dollars, you're going to keep them, and they're going to roll over from year to year.
Scott, just for our audience here, please give them your phone number and website so they can reach you and talk with you about this particular great HSA plan.
We have a fantastic amount of information on our website. It's missionhsa.com. In your packets, we are the one right behind Peter Newman. So this brochure right here is the one that is about us, talks about health savings account. On the back is an article that I put on the Kansas City Star here a while back talking about health savings accounts. So missionhsa.com is my website, and I give everyone my cell phone number, believe it or not. My cell phone number is the best place to call me. It's 913-980-4694.
Well, Scott, thank you very much for giving us an update on what HSAs are all about. Let's talk about another subject. I mentioned earlier to you that we all have need for legal documents, whether it be a living trust, whether it's for incorporating, all kinds of, in fact, I had somebody call me today, you'll love this, Mike Lee, asking about a prenuptial agreement. She's had been divorced, she's getting married, she learned the real world, and she wants a prenuptial agreement. I said, oh, no problem, I know exactly who to go see. Tell us a little bit about your company.
Well, thanks for having me on, and it's a pleasure to be here. We are a legal document preparation service. And as I was thinking about what I'd be talking about here today, I was thinking legal document preparation service. Wow, that sounds pretty exciting. How am I going to get everybody all revved up over that? We prepare documents. We do lots of different documents, whether it be incorporation or LLC formation, whether it's wills or living trusts, powers of attorney, step-parent adoption, uncontested divorce. Doesn't matter if it's Missouri or Kansas, we can handle it either way. And basically what we do is our customers come to us, give us the information that they have about either themselves or their situation, select or tell us what service they're looking for. We then prepare the document so that it's properly done. We assist them in executing it. If it's a court matter, they'll file it, such as divorce. If it's not, such as wills or trusts, then we'll execute that right in our store. So We're the equivalent of LegalZoom, but we have a storefront, and we didn't represent O.J. Simpson.
So let me ask you another question. Now, We the People is a national organization, number one.
We are.
You own the franchise here in the greater Kansas City area?
That's correct.
You're in, about 40 cities or so?
Yes, there's almost 100 stores in about 19 or 20 states right now.
Okay. And
we're the only Kansas store, and we opened in 2003.
the most frequently needed document, and I think it's very important, I always recommend to my clients that they look at living trusts. It's a very important document. Anybody who has a will needs to look seriously. Wills cause more probating problems than anything else. Living trusts at most attorneys are going to run you somewhere, in my opinion, between $1,000 and $2,000. Now, I don't want to know if there's any attorneys here because we may get a different answer. But I have a funny feeling I'm going to be in the ballpark. What is a living trust, including a durable power of attorney, a pour-over will, and a living will, run at your store?
Well, for a married couple, that would be $499.
So $500 we could get. Now, again, you're not lawyers.
That's correct. We're not lawyers.
Shake my hands, will you?
We're not lawyers. I don't even know any of the lawyer jokes. I leave that to Peter. But in fact, we're not anti-lawyer. We even get referrals from lawyers. Basically, what we do is we serve a customer that knows what they need, does not have a complicated situation as far as, let's say, estate planning is concerned. They just want to have the documents done correctly. They don't want to spend a lot of money, and they want to make it simple and easy. So that's what we do. That's the niche we serve. And my wife Kathy and I started our store back 6 years ago when our children called and said we should be getting something like wills or trusts or something because we're married, we've got kids, we've got house, dogs, cars, all that kind of stuff. Shouldn't we be doing something, Dad? And my answer was, you should, but go to a document preparer because chances are what your needs are going to be not as complicated as maybe a vast, large estate, and pay a little bit of money, get the right stuff done. Well, they couldn't find a place. So one thing led to another, and my wife Kathy and I decided we would open the store and provide that service. If it was good enough for our family, it'd be good enough for everybody's family. So that's kind of how we got started.
Where are you located?
Well, we're in Rosanna Square, 119th and Metcalf. The shopping center is very easy to find. Our store is very hard to find for some reason. We seem to be at one end next to the Noble House Jewelry Store. Free plug for them. But we do a number of different things, including, as I mentioned, wills and trusts. Let me just briefly walk through the process.
That'd be fine.
First of all, we have, and I've brought some things with me tonight in case people are interested. We have some things that if you are not sure exactly what it is you want to do or how different things work, for example, this says Guide to Revocable Living Trust. This is not in your packet, but I'll have some of these available if somebody's interested. Since we're not allowed to give legal advice and we're not allowed to tell you what document you should have, you're going to need to know a little bit about what it is you need. Now, most people know what a will is and how it works, power of attorney, living trust, and if they don't, Peter usually tells them and sends them over. But, for example, this will kind of walk you through living trusts and the kind of documents you will receive and the things that you might want to think about. I would imagine many of you here have a living trust already. And if you don't, then you probably have a will. And if you don't, then you probably should be thinking about doing something like that. But keep in mind your children may need these services as well. So here's how it works. You come in, tell me, I'd like to do a will. I'll say, fine, here's the information I need. I have a 3-page, 4-page questionnaire that's going to ask for, what's your name? Who are your beneficiaries going to be? Who do you want to have as an alternate beneficiary in case the one named is no longer living at the time? You want to have an executor, an alternate executor? Do you want to name a guardian for minor children? Very important for younger families. Do you want to name a guardian and a custodian for younger children? Are there any specific or special gifts you want to identify? Give me that information. 1 week later, we have the will ready. And it's a matter of coming in, reviewing it, signing it, or executing it, and then it's enforced.
And for those individuals who have businesses, let's just clarify something here. A lot of businesses today are looking at more tax-efficient ways to run their businesses. For example, we all know, or I hope you know, the only way to prevent taxation with Social Security in it is to form an S corporation where you do not pay all the Social Security taxes on your earnings. And by the way, even in the federal government, everybody has S corps. So if you have a business and you're thinking about maybe saving some dollars, you might want to look at an S corp. On the other hand, you may say to yourself, you're in a business where you need supreme legal protection and you want to go with a limited liability company. And not everybody should have those. You have to be sure as to what really fits your specific tax and legal situation. Then you look, for example, at an LLC. But any of those are ones that can be done. I'll close, though, in saying one thing, and that is attorneys are definitely necessary and needed in many, many cases. For example, if I have a client come in and they've been married 2 or 3 times, they've got 5 kids from each marriage or whatever it may be, I'm probably going to say, look, here's a situation where we probably need a little bit more consulting and a little bit more detailed planning with some additional specific trusts as the case may be. But if you're married, you've got a good marriage, you've not been hopping around, so to speak, then the bottom line is you do in fact want to look at this because it is a way to get that all-important document. And don't wait until the last minute to do it, by the way. I'm always amazed by the number of people who come in, they're 50, 55, they've never done anything. As soon as you have children and are married, you need some type of legal document to protect you, protect your spouse, protect your children as well. And it's absolutely an important, imperative step that you should do. Mike, I want to thank you for joining us as well.
Thank you very much.
And letting everybody know about what you do there. And one last time, Scott, let us have your phone number and address as well.
Yeah, my phone number, once again, if you didn't get it a minute ago, 913-980-4694. And my website is missionhsa.com.
Next, I want to thank all of you, by the way, for coming. I hope you've learned something. And if not, you always tune in to KMBZ's Moneyline, Saturday 11 to 1. And again, Norman, Polsky, and Elaine, thank you so much again for inviting us to join you. What an unbelievable couple. What they have done for this community is unmentionable in terms of what has been accomplished. Here's a man who started from small beginnings and spends his time and his effort to educate you Americans to become better Americans and more stable financially.
Do we have time for a few questions? Okay. I'm going to take that as a yes. We have kind of a wide range of questions. I'm going to try to hit on, each of the topics we've discussed a couple of times. But again, if you have things that you don't find the answer to during the program, our speakers are kind enough to stay afterwards, and we will have cookies replenished in the lobby after the program, just in case you wondered about that. All right, this is a question from our room upstairs. By the way, we did have overflow tonight. There are 85 folks watching this in another room on closed-circuit television, so we want to say hello to all of them. And here's a question from the upper room. It says, Peter, what do you think of ETFs?
I happen to be a big believer in ETFs. They're called exchange-traded funds. It's a different way to invest in a mutual fund. When you buy a mutual fund, it's a fund that is not traded on any exchange as such. In other words, anytime you wish to buy a mutual fund, you go directly to the mutual fund company. The ETFs are index funds. They're traded on the exchanges. You can buy or sell them anytime you wish. For example, the day that we had the stimulus package almost in place, what did the Dow go down? 283 points, remember, just a day or two ago. Well, if you thought that day was going to be a downer and you still think it's going to be a downer, you could have actually sold your fund at 9 o'clock in the morning. You can't do that with a mutual fund. The price is determined as of the end of a day, and whatever that is, that's the price that stays until the following day. So these funds, number one, they're index funds. They're traded on the exchanges, almost no expenses, very little internal fees, no significant fees to outside as well. I'm a believer as an overall portfolio that you look at exchange-traded funds. This past year, we had an outflow of mutual funds in the area of $157 billion. This past year, we had an inflow into exchange-traded funds of about $70+ billion. That has to tell you something that is realistic about exchange-traded funds. That's not to mean you should have everything exchange-traded funds, but they are, in my opinion, certainly a way to go. And you're going to see a lot of mutual fund companies joining the bandwagon. You can now even get ETFs within mutual funds as well. Again, what you save is you save fees. They're very tax efficient. Also, a very important thing, if it's not in a retirement account. I strongly recommend that at least you understand and become familiar with exchange-traded funds.
Okay, thank you. This question is for Peter Borden, and I do want to mention, I think Peter has some business cards in the lobby. I'm sorry, what?
Scott Borden.
Gosh. Poor, you know, I've called him by I don't know how many names tonight. It's ridiculous. I'm so sorry. This is an HSA question.
All right.
A couple of folks are asking about that. How to open an HSA account? Do they need to just come to you, or are there other places they can go? And which people are allowed to do this? Anyone, people on Medicare, et cetera?
Great questions. Okay, people on Medicare, there is a product out there during your open enrollment between November 15th and December 31st of each year. I can explain to you how that works for people on Medicare. Other than that, they cannot do health savings accounts. Health savings accounts are available for people that are not claimed as a dependent on someone else's tax return. So if you have a child in college or children, we can't do an HSA account for them alone, but anyone that is covered exclusively by a qualified high-deductible health plan. In other words, if your employer group health insurance policy has low copays for your doctor's office visits and your prescription drugs, then you cannot open a separate health savings account. I show businesses how to switch the insurance plan over to a high-deductible health plan that is qualified, save them the premium, and then set up the HSA account. We work with a lot of different banks out there. We're an independent insurance agency. I specialize on the insurance part, and then I work with the business because a lot of banks today are offering the actual health savings accounts.
Great, thank you very much. Several questions about the Roth IRA. One of them is, if I have a mutual fund that has a loss, would it be beneficial to take that money out and put it in an already existing Roth IRA?
Well, let's first talk about how a Roth IRAs work, just to make sure. First of all, the maximum Roth that you can do over 50 years of age is $6,000, but you have to have earned income, number one, to even do it. But let's say, for example, you now have a mutual fund, and it's not in a Roth IRA. Well, the only way you can get a mutual fund is to go out and buy, in a Roth that you currently own, a mutual fund. But that money that's in the mutual fund, if you take it out or sell it, you're going to have to open up a Roth if you're eligible. And of course, let's be honest about Roths. You can do a Roth even when you're 100 years of age. Remember, in an IRA, when do IRAs stop? 70 and a half, right? You can no longer do a deductible or any other kind of IRA. In a Roth, you can continue to do that as long as you have some element of earned income. And with a Roth, there are no minimum distributions ever required. That's the flexibility of a Roth. But you can buy anything you want in a Roth. You can buy a mutual fund, you can buy an ETF. If you want to, you can buy a CD. Anything is open, literally speaking, in purchasing in a Roth, just as it is in a regular IRA.
Okay. Here's someone that asks, if an IRA required minimum distribution was taken January 2nd of this year before the law changed, Can they put it back in the IRA?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, yes, you can, because this year there is no minimum distribution required. So if you took it out, you can put it in, but it has to be done within 60 days. Meaning, if you don't do it within 60 days, you've pulled it out, it's too late. Because see, you can still make a distribution. All of us make a calculation to determine what the minimum is that we have to take out in normal years. And how do we do that? We look at the December 31st value of our IRAs. We look at our age. We look at a table. And if you're 70 and a half, the divisor is about 27. So we divide 27 into the dollar amount of the value. And that's the minimum distribution. And as we get older, of course, that divisor becomes smaller because our life expectancy has decreased. And so if, in fact, we want to make the pullout, we make the calculation. But if you take it out, and you can always take out money, right? What's going to happen when you take it out? You're going to get taxed on it, aren't you? Unless you had non-deductible accounts. If you ever did a non-deductible IRA, anybody here ever do a non-deductible IRA? If you did, you're going to find yourself with fun and games because you got to do an 8606 form, which tells you how much is taxable and how much is not taxable. 60 days, though, that's the turnaround. You have to put it back in.
Okay. Somebody actually asked if the 8606 form is going to be abolished soon.
Never. That I will unequivocally say never, and I honestly believe I will never, ever be overturned.
Here's a couple of questions now about the stimulus package.
Yes.
Do you believe that it will create jobs, and will it provide for tax cuts or tax credits?
Well, actually, let's talk about two aspects. First, the tax part. There are both tax credits in the bill and tax cuts as well. It has both of them in there. You look at the detail of it, and we'll discuss that, by the way, in depth on our next program on KMBZ. We'll give you more details on it as to how it works. What was the other question besides the IRA? Would you repeat that for me? There was two questions about
about the IRA?
Oh, the deduction. Was the other one a
yes.
question? It has a number of additional deductions in it as well. I mentioned one earlier. One of them is that it does, in fact, provide for a deduction, for example, for sales taxes on the purchase of a car. It has a number of other tax benefits. Again, I'm not convinced that they're all productive stimulus benefits, because my personal feeling is the most important thing, and Obama has said this and everybody agrees, I mentioned earlier, the most critical part of our whole situation is the job situation. And because we've got so much unemployment taking place every day, you pick up the newspaper, you read another report, this company's laying off 1,000, 5,000, 10,000 people, and it's just unbelievable the numbers that are occurring. But it's a squeeze, right? A business no longer is getting the volume of business. Why are they not? Because you're not spending. As a result, we're getting decreased revenues, and companies are starting to cut. And where do you always cut first? Employees. Because they're the most expensive part, generally, of the overall cost of doing a business. So they will, in fact, continue. And I'm a believer, for example, the infrastructure work that they're talking about doing, the money being spent to provide jobs, in my opinion, is the single most important part of a true, effective stimulus bill.
So here's someone who's saying, when the government prints more money, is there gold behind it?
No, absolutely. No,
we wish
the only
there
thing
was.
that's behind it is the ink on which the paper is being printed. But that's about it, because obviously it's not. And by the way, people have asked, what about gold? You know, you take a look at gold. I didn't look where it closed today, but it's been around 920 or so. It was up to 1,000. So if you look at it, it's only down about 7% from its high. How have you been doing in the market? You know how much the Dow is down from its high right now? 44% from its all-time high. And by the way, when was the all-time high? Just not very long ago, September, October of last year. Where's the NASDAQ? It's down about 70% from its all-time high. Back in about 2001, when the NASDAQ hit its high, about 1 year later, most of these guys here were with me on the program, remembered me saying the NASDAQ will never come back in this decade. That was back in 2001. I believe I'm going to say the same thing when I do my first program in 2010, that it may not come back. Now, Norman may not agree with me. He may disagree. But I really think that this is what's going to happen. The techs are never going to come back to where they were in the dot-com era.
Here's somebody asking about returns, or actually losses. What percentage of your clients' portfolios changed in the last year?
99, 44, 100%. I mean, I don't think there's anybody that I know of the clients of our clients that have come in to do tax returns or have come in for investing consultation. And I've had a number of people who have come in and literally sat down and sat in front of me and cried and saying, I can't believe what's happened. Well, of course, as senior citizens, obviously, it's very, very detrimental because we're counting on that money as our nest egg to keep us going. And people have said to me and have come in and said, you know, I think I want to go the safe route. Now, is that the right way? For some people, yes. For others, perhaps no. The critical, and I'm sure Norm would not agree with this, and because he's a big believer in mutual funds, I think they're a good way to go, certainly for those 20, 30, and 40, but I'm not so convinced for those people 60, 70, and if they are, we better say to ourselves, how much of our portfolio, of our total assets, are we really willing to take a true risk? You know, a year ago, 2 years ago, when I was talking about risk, you all said, no big sweat, no big deal. Today, it's a different situation, isn't it? When we talk about risk, you know risk is risk. And when you get to be a certain age and you're not working and you don't have current income coming in, the number one factor has to be, where am I going to get my money to live on for the rest of my life? And if you're willing to gamble, and the market is a gamble, no, are you convinced of that today? I think so. Then you better play the cards a different way than a lot of you have been playing. You know, back in 2000, when we suddenly, 2001, when the market started coming down, and a lot of seniors had gotten into markets big time, I would have thought they might have learned a lesson that there is a point at which cautiousness becomes primary, and that's when we get to be senior citizens. You've got to determine, maybe with a financial counselor, how much you're really willing to risk. You'd be surprised. We do taxes for financial counselors as well. I would not want to show you tax returns of some of these financial counselors. You would never use them again.
I want to say thank you to our panel tonight, Michael Lee, Scott Borden, Peter Newman. We have Scott Borden's cards in the lobby. We have books in the lobby. We have cookies in the lobby. And I want you to fill out that green survey card before you leave tonight. That includes those of you in the upper room. And we'll see you again on March 11th. Please come back next time. Thank you.
Thank you.